Okay, guys, we are back for part 4, or excuse me, part 5. We're going to mount the engine and the fuel tank in this today and cut the cowl, and then all we have to do is balance it. So hopefully we'll get it finished today. I'll see. I'm not sure. I'm hoping I can get all this done in one 30-minute or less section. If not, I'll have to do 2 on it. But anyway, we've got our engine parts all laid out here. I can get my camera down here. Got our engine and our motor mount and all the screws ready. One other thing I'm going to need is this. I'll show you how we use that here in a minute. This engine, the 4 strokes, has a carburetor on the very back of the engine, so it makes it a little more difficult to mount. One real important thing is the measurement from your firewall to the thrust washer is very, very important on an airplane due to balance and the way it flies and the way your cowl mounts. This particular plane, it's not quite as critical. I mean, it needs to be where it says, but as far as the cowl mounting, the cowl will overlap the fuselage right here, and it'll slide back and forth. In other words, there's not a place that it locks in. The Great Plains Revolver, for instance, that my wife has, it has a little rib right around the edge of the fuselage that the cowl actually fits into. So that is very critical, that your engine mount has to be perfect for that cowl to lock in right there, or your back of your spinner plate will be too tight or too far away from your cowl. So like I said, we've got a little bit of leeway on this one. We'll set the engine where it calls for, and then we'll adjust our cowl to the spacing we need behind the spinner plate. But there's wooden blocks inside the fuselage right here that the screws will go into, and I'll show you here in a little bit how we do that and mark them. But right now we're going to work on mounting the engine. That being said, the engine mount, they come standard set up for a track gear, for a tricycle type airplane. Of course, this is a tail dragger, so this track gear deal here for the axle to go through is in the way, and what it does, it hits on the carburetor right there. So we're going to have to take a Dremel and cut that out of this motor mount so we can get this engine back far enough. And we'll see if we can get that took care of right quick. I can't get this thing. Alright, well, I might put a new disc on my Dremel. Let me do that and I'll be right back. Okay, got us a new cutting disc on here. Now, it's kind of important, the way this frame overlaps each other, the bolts go through. I want to leave this tab over here. I don't want to just cut this completely off. So what I'm going to do is cut this off, and I may have to bevel back in here, but I'm going to try to leave that on there intact. So we're going to take our Dremel and cut into that. Get the right angle on here. I guess this will work better. I don't want to get this stuff in my eyes. Alright, now turn this off, and we will take our disc out and put this little tapered stone cone burr in here, and we'll smooth it up with that. Alright, we're going to try it at this point. Here's where, let me show you this little trick. Get this off of here. The best way to measure to the back of your, or the front of your thrust washer, if you just hold your ruler up here, it's kind of hard to exactly eyeball it. So here's what I do. Take these off, the nuts. Get you a little piece of flat stock, 1/4 inch thick, just hardwood. Center it, mark a center mark, drill a hole in it, and bolt that on here. And then that will give you an exact measurement of where that goes. You can actually stick your ruler right up against it. So let's get this on here. And you don't have to tighten this down real tight, just snug it, and I'm going to put this back on so I don't lose it. Anyway, now I can lay this, let me put this back together. And we'll lay our engine in there. We gotta get it the right width here. Okay, now this is going to be against the firewall, so let's measure here and see what we have. This is 4 7/8 inches from the firewall. So we've got our, that's not tightening down on there. How weird. Oh well, it's good enough. So we'll measure from the ruler right here, the firewall. Well, we're a 1/16 of an inch shy. So what we're going to do is we're going to look here where this is hitting. This carburetor's hitting right there in the middle. So I'm going to thin that down just a tiny bit, trying not to take that tab off. And I see another problem we're going to run into. The bolt is going to be sticking out of this, so that's going to hit. I'm not real sure what we're going to do about that. Wow, we are going to have to cut this tab off, because if I leave it on there, then that's going to cause the head of the bolt to be out here and it's going to hit. So if I cut this off, then the bolt will go against this piece and it'll still work. I just didn't want to do that if I could keep from it, but yes, we're going to have to cut that tab completely off. So alright, let me do that. Change my deal here. A lot of times you have to modify these motor mounts for these 4-stroke engines. When I put my 120 4-stroke in my Seawind, man, I had to modify the heck out of that thing and even drill some holes in the firewall itself to get it back far enough. Flash off of there. Alright, let's put this back together. I'll leave it kind of wide. Put my engine in there. And squeeze it together. Okay, I've got it slid back. Now let's check one more time and see what we got here. Now, if I can get this held in place with my thumb. Alright, so we can roll that right around there. And it's still almost a 1/16 short, so I'm going to have to take a little bit more off this end right here. And get rid of my shrapnel here. Little pieces of that laying on your towel or your table. You have to be careful. If it's hard and you flop your plane over on it, it will damage your covering. So be real careful about getting your debris out of your way before you lay your fuselage or wing or anything over here. You don't want to tear it up. Alright, I think we're getting there. Let's try this one more time. Set that on there. Squeeze it up to where it goes. Engine's back. We can take just a little bit more if we need to. Alright, let me get this on here with my thumb. Engine's trying to slip on me. Okay, it's still hitting just a tiny bit, so let's take this out, put this in here, and do it with this. Get my shrapnel picked up. Alright, scrape the flash off of here. A lot of this stuff is kind of time consuming. You just got to take your time and just do it a little at a time until you get it where it belongs. Get that motor mount locked together. Here we go. Okay, there we go, exactly 4 inches and 7/8, and that's what we're looking for. So we've got that trim back. I still think we're going to have a problem with this bolt over here on this side. It's still going to hit. I'm not sure what we're going to do about that. It's an Allen head bolt. I may have to try to find a flathead screw bolt to go in there, a pan head, to get that in, because it's going to hit. And that'll make it push out, and there's no way I can't just grind that off. So this side's going to be a problem because the bolt head is almost probably going to hit the carburetor arm. So we're going to have to do a little finagling here. I may have to find some different bolts, or I may have to countersink into this, which I hate to do that because it'll weaken the structure of this motor mount a little bit, but I may not have any choice to get this engine mounted where it goes. So I may have to thin this down here and here to get those bolts in there. We'll see what we can come up with here. Okay, we've got our motor mount modified now. Got my engine back far enough. You can lay your ruler right against the firewall, rotate that around, and it's exactly on 4 7/8, so that's where we want it. I'll wait and take that off. I've got my engine clamped in place. I got a clamp on the bottom and top, and I'm going to drill my pilot holes, and what I use is this Great Plains center hole locator. It's a little bitty drill bit in here, and it's spring loaded. It's meant to use thumb. It's kind of hard. I've learned that I like it better in a drill, just on very low speed. But you push that cone into that hole, and that centers it up, and then just use gentle pressure and start your hole. Alright, we're going to do the 2 outside ones, or the front ones. This will ensure that your holes are started perfectly aligned and perfectly straight. Now I'm going to move this clamp up to this hole, clamp it. I don't want this engine to move any while I'm doing these, drilling these holes, because I want them all to be the same when I get the engine off of here. So we'll just clamp those down pretty snug. You can just crank these little clamps down, and now we'll do the back holes. Alright, here we go. That one started. You don't have to go very deep. All you're doing is making a pilot hole, so when you put this in your drill press. Okay, we got that. Take this back off and put him up. It's a handy little tool. Alright, now we can take our clamps off and get our engine off of here. And I did not put Loctite on these bolts at this time. I just screwed them in there to hold it in place. And while I had the engine on here where the throttle arm is, I also took a Sharpie and I marked where I'm going to have to drill for my linkage tube to go through. So we got it perfectly aligned with the throttle arm. I will drill a hole right here, and we'll run the tube through, and it'll fit right underneath the fuel tank and come back in. That helps guide your rod through there without it bowing and bending. So it's kind of a thin little rod. So anyway, we will take this back off now and put it in the drill press and drill our holes and tap it for these bolts to go in this thing. Alright, we've got our engine holes marked and our motor mount. Got it back off the fuselage now. We're going to drill these. I like to use a drill press because that keeps my holes nice and straight. Normally I drill and tap these to a 632 and put a nut on the back, but I I can't find my tap. I don't know what I've done with it. I have two of them, and I'm not sure what I've done with them. But anyway, we're going to just drill holes and go all the way through this with bolts and washers and lock nuts on the back side. I've never had any problem with that either. So just a little scrap piece of wood I keep laying around, a little 2x2, and we'll get these holes drilled. Get our shrapnel out of here again, and get this. Let's see. Let me get my drill bit back out here and put it up where it goes. Put this up. Okay. Get this all out of the way. Now, I need to double check and make sure my bolts are, I may have to go with a slightly larger hole. No, they're going to fit. Now I'm going to trim the flash off of this with my knife. Get all that debris out of the way. Now, let me take this one, make sure that my screws aren't going to thread through here all the way. I want them kind of snug. I don't want to water my holes out. So, yeah, that's kind of threading itself through there, so that'll be nice and tight. So, matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and start all of these holes right now before I put the engine on. That way, I won't run into a bind problem. That little booger gets hot going through there, so I'll use a different one. Okay. Start this one. I'm not real crazy about Phillips head screws, but it's the only ones I had right now. I'd rather have Allen head, but I'm getting low on my bolt supply. I need to get some more. Alright, we got those drilled and kind of self-tapped there. Now, we will put this back on the fuselage, and what we're going to do, get it figured out where it goes here. We're going to start the bolts. Now we want to put Loctite on these, because they're going to be permanent once we cinch them down. You doggone thing. Plugging up. I'm getting kind of low anyway. I need to get another bottle of Loctite, but we're going to go ahead and Loctite them. Let's get the plane turned around here. Where you can see everything, excuse me. Just kind of get these in place, and we'll adjust it to where the engine goes. Why is that not? Oh, you doggone thing. Allen, there it went. Couldn't get my Allen wrench in there. Alright, here we go. Get it back together where it belongs. Now, let's get this one started. Okay. I'll go ahead and Loctite every one of these as I go, because I'm going to, as soon as I get it aligned, we're going to tighten them down. So, wrench in there, see if I can find that hole where it goes. There it goes. Alright, let's get the other side. It's kind of stiff to get in that groove. You can just kind of get them in there and feel your way till you find the blind nut. Get them started straight. Don't cross thread them. Well, you find this one. There it went. Found him. Okay, one more. That one in there. Find the hole or threads. Alright, she is started. I'm just going to lightly, not even really snug them, but just almost to the point. Well, I don't have it in there yet. I thought I did. There it goes. Don't want them tight. I want to be able to move this, and I'm going to pull this apart. Put my Loctite up. Get it out of the way. Now, I'm going to lay this engine in there. And we're going to squeeze these to where they go together. Now, cinch this one down. Before I actually tighten them all the way, I'm going to check it again. That one down. That one. Okay, they're pretty tight, but we're going to finish tightening them just to make sure this fits. Alright, holes are lined up perfect. Got clearance back here for my throttle arm. Clearance for the carburetor. Nothing's touching, rubbing, getting any vibration. So we're good to go. Now, we will cinch these on down good and tight. I like to take a piece of a paper towel, because my hands get kind of sweaty and these handles get oily or whatever. Take a paper towel on there. You can really, or if you have regular like T-handle, which I do, I have a whole set down here. I just don't have them hung up yet. They would be better for this. Matter of fact, let me find them and figure out what this is. Oh, let's see here. It's millimeter. I got these at also at Harbor Freight. They're a very nice set of T-handles, and they come with a bracket you can mount on the wall or table or whatever. Let's see if I have one the right size. It's a little too small. It's a 7/64. There we go. Alright, now I can really tighten them down easy with this T-handle. I think these are like $6 a set, I believe, at Harbor Freight. $5.99. So, and I got the metric and the SAE. Love Harbor Freight. They've got awesome. They're pretty much cheap tools, but for this hobby, you don't need. It's not like you're gonna strip a whole lot of stuff out. They work really well. All the little clamps I get, and the tools like this, I love them. They just really work well. I've got a little 12-volt Dremel tool I got for $10. All kinds of little goodies like that. So Harbor Freight's a really good place to get cheap tools for your building and your hobby. Okay, now let's get this back on here. Get it snapped in there. And wiggle it back here. Get the hole lined up. I need to come slightly forward. There we go. Now, let's see what we can do here. We'll try a different drill bit, see if that's going to fit better. Oh, got the right one. I just don't want to strip these. Alright, I'm gonna, whoa, about dropped my plane off the table there. Sitting on my chair. These screws are trying to strip kind of easy, so I'm gonna go to a flathead bit. These heads are Phillips or flathead, and I'm also going to use my extension here, so I don't get up against the head of this engine and do any damage, especially on the muffler side. Well, this one's got a tube header, but your two-stroke engines, you'll grind away if you're not careful. Well, I ain't gonna go in there. Let me get a smaller one. Let's see if that one will fit. Well, too big also. Alright, here it is. I'll get it here in a minute. We're just going to kind of tighten them down, get all of them over here. And we do not put Loctite on these because they are, you're using lock nuts that have the nylon insert in them. Loctite will deteriorate that plastic in that nylon insert and make it go bad. So you do not want to use Loctite on these. I don't care what people tell you. I've heard people say, I put Loctite on everything. But you do not put it on these lock nuts. It'll ruin them. It also doesn't work well like on muffler bolts and stuff. The heat from the engine just deteriorates the Loctite anyway. So you need lock washers on that. Alright. Well, battery's getting a little low, I believe. Maybe not. Okay. Now we'll hand cinch them by hand when we put the nuts on the back side with the screwdriver. Get this stuff put up here. Let me find my screwdriver right quick. Here it is. I'll use this bigger one. Now we'll turn this around here and let me find my socket set. I have a nice little socket set I got. I love this thing. I use it on every plane I build. A little nice lightweight ratchet. I've got a set of SAE and metric deep well sockets for these long bolts. We're going to put a flat washer on here, and then we're going to find what fits this. I'm not sure if it's, there it is. It is a metric, looks like. Okay, let's start. Let's get all these on here started. Then we'll put the ratchet to them, tighten them down. I'll use a screwdriver to hold the screws on the other side so they don't back out when I hit the lock nut part of this. Okay, now get in here and get a hold of it. Get them started. Once it catches, then you can crank it and ratchet it. There's my screw hole over here. Alright, just tighten these down pretty good. Don't just over tighten them and strip them. Alright, we have a mounted engine. And now the fun part. We get to cut the cowl to fit around this. Well, we're going to get the fuel tank in first and get our linkage hooked up stuff on the throttle before we do that. But I'm going to take a break here and we'll be back and put the fuel tank in. Okay, one thing I almost forgot. Drill my hole for my linkage, throttle linkage. Luckily, I used my extension. I was still able to do it after I mounted the engine. I've done this before and had to pull the engine back off because I couldn't get to it. We're going to put our tube in there. Actually, first, you want to sand around the edge of it, the end, so the glue will bond. We're going to run that in the hole. On this particular model, we're going to run it up flush with the, wow, I got it a little bit too low. That's alright, we'll just put a Z-bend in the linkage to go in there. Okay, we're going to put thin CA around that. Well, if I can get it unplugged here again. Everything I got's plugged up. Golly. There we go. Oh, great. Head come off my pen. Alright, we're getting it. Now we're going to run some thin CA around that. Let that set. That'll hold that in place. Throw this pen away. Plug my glue back up. Alright, now we have that. Let's see here. I'm going to make a little Z-bend in this. Get my needle nose out. Oops, that's the wrong one. Well, here they are. Because I got my hole a little off somehow. I don't know how I managed that, but it is slightly off. Now, so that lines up with that linkage. That may not work either. Hang on just a second. Like a shorter bend. Stuff. Well, get this end back right. Okay. Now we're gonna go back to the throttle back here. So I'm gonna cut that off right there. Get rid of some of this slack. And let's run this in here and see what we got. Let's put that in there. Okay. Now, find my wrench for this. There we go. We're going to put some Loctite on this. We don't want our throttle linkage coming loose. Alright, on a 4-stroke, the linkage is backwards. On a 2-stroke, forward is full throttle, back is closed. On a 4-stroke, back is full throttle, and forward is closed. So, we got plenty of slack there, working properly. Let's pull it from in here and see if we got any kind of bind. Nope, looking good. Take a little bend right here just to kind of loosen that up. There we go. Had just a tiny bit of bind in it. We'll take that out. If it can move freely in your hand, then that means it's not going to bind your servo, and that's what you want. So, alright, that's good and smooth. No heavy binding in it. So, we'll get this hooked up to the servo here in a little bit. Alright, we got that installed. Now, fumes in my eye. I do want to take my paper towel and tighten this down before I forget. Really tight. There. Alright, cool. No binding. I like that. Okay, we've got our throttle linkage hooked up, tightened down on the carburetor. I've got it locked in on my quick connect on my servo. So, what we're going to do is I've pushed it all the way forward, which is carburetor's closed. Let me see. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that in there, but there's carburetor barrel. You can see that it's all the way closed. Now what I want to do at this point with my radio, so I want to go into sub trim, and I want to go to throttle, highlight that. Now, or no, not sub trim, I'm sorry, travel adjustment. Go to travel adjustment. Get that. Now we're on throttle. Wow, this has already been set. Alright, let's see what we can do here. Highlight it. Yeah, I'm going to have to undo this one. I got to set this at 0 and start from there. Hang on a minute. Well, see how high it goes. 150. So I'm going to set it on 75 to center it. Now I'm going to loosen this, push it forward. Come on. Get my screwdriver. Well, I have to get in at this angle. I'm going to be right back in a minute. Okay, back to the throttle. I had to change my throttle servo out. It was stripped. Got a gear stripped in it. I guess it's out of an old plane or something. But anyway, got another throttle servo in here. Got my linkage hooked up. What I want to do with my trim on my radio all the way down, and the throttle stick all the way down, I want my throttle barrel closed. So we're going to travel adjustment this until we see it start to open. I forgot to highlight it. Alright, now. Okay, now it's starting to open, but I'm going to crank it down until it's completely closed. No air can get in it, but yet it's not bottomed out. There we go. Now, when I trim this up to center, I should have enough throttle barrel for it to idle. And I can adjust that up or down with that. So, let me go back one more. Alright, she's shut all the way. Now let's trim it up to the middle, and there we go. We got perfect, just about the perfect amount for idle. Now it should trim down, it'll kill the engine. Alright, now we want to go to full throttle, but it's binding a little bit. So, we're going to back that off quite a bit, go to full throttle, and then we're going to sub-trim it until our throttle barrel is completely open, but not binding our linkage. There you go. The throttle's perfectly set up. Ready to go.